So we need no introduction. So we have the director, Andre, here, and we have the producer, Henry. They're going to come down and show the movie for you.
What up, Brooklyn?
Hey!
The LaRocca sisters in the house?
Did you get all your announcements done? Because we just took over right now. It's over tonight. Just want to make sure.
The only thing I didn't tell him is to turn off their cell phone.
Yes, he didn't remind you to turn off your cell phones. Henry will throw you out. Boo! No, boo people that use their cell phones during a movie. Right?
Yeah.
Yes. Hey, there's a Stephen King rule shirt right there. Hello. Got one over here too? Got one over here too? Where? Oh, right there. Okay, good. Where's Staten Island? Staten Island's in here. Yay! That's all going to make sense in a few minutes.
Get ready, people.
Yes, get ready. This is it. Boom. You would ask, how many people have seen Monster Squad?
Woo! Ask him the other one.
Yeah.
Ask him the
How many
other
people have never seen the Monster Squad?
one. Be honest.
No, it's totally okay. Okay, 3, 4, 5. 4, 5.
You're gonna love the doc.
Beginner.
Got a
Good.
poison.
Doesn't matter. A lot of the stuff you see, it's great. And what happens is a lot of people watch this documentary and go home and like, shit, I'm gonna go watch Monster Squad. I want to find out what all this craziness is about. So this next bit is probably for the ones that haven't seen it, but Monster Squad fans are very connected to that movie, right? We all kind of figured that out somehow. And me being sort of the kind of de facto gatekeeper to the fan base for a number of years, along with, the other cast members like Ashley Bank, who plays Phoebe, and Ryan Lambert, who plays everybody's favorite cool dude, Rudy. Yeah, okay, we get it, whatever. He's the cool guy.
We like you best.
You like me? Thank you.
There you go.
That'll be $50 though.
How about 2 beers and a pretzel? All right. But we wanted to find some way. I had this idea to celebrate the fans who didn't let this movie that tanked in the movie theater. This movie never died, right? Did anybody see this Monster Squad in the movie theater?
I told you that before.
Yes. Okay. Ooh, I know that shirt. I gave you that shirt. It's a rad shirt. So those of you who saw it in the movie theater, all 11 of you nationwide, thank you. Does anybody not know this movie was a complete bomb? Is that news to anybody?
Well,
Okay, great.
spoilers.
Oh, spoilers! Sorry. I gotta go. It doesn't matter where you found this movie. How many people saw this on HBO for the first time? How many people recorded it on like a BASF black VHS tape on HBO? Yeah, right? Okay.
Sci-Fi
How
Channel.
many people found it at the local video store because some nerdy clerk was like, you gotta see this. Right? Okay. So that's sort of the kind of triumvirate right there of where we found this, right? It doesn't matter where you saw Monster Squad. It doesn't matter where you saw your favorite movie, but you have a connection with it somehow. So what we wanted to try to do is find a way to tell the story of that connection and how movies or films that you grew up with, love, or whatever somehow impact you and how they could affect your life, change your life, actually change the course of your life in some manner. I'm looking at someone that actually is an example of that. And I'm one of those examples. I was in a movie called The Monster Squad. It came out, it disappeared. I did other stuff, but it followed you around, and then it blew up in 2006 and just went crazy, right? I'm going to let the documentary speak for itself, and then we'll hang out and do a Q&A after, right, Justin? Oh, I know. I'm going to give you. I know.
I'm just saying, go on.
No, they're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere.
No.
I gave her that shirt. She's not going anywhere.
All right.
But yeah, so it was sort of this idea, and when you watch this documentary, you'll find its and bits and little pieces that actually connect with you as an individual and as sort of a group, and hopefully that works because that's kind of what we were aiming for. Who has seen docs like Back in Time and Best Worst Movie? Okay.
Woo.
Who has seen like a definitive making of doc of your favorite movie of all time, right?
Yeah.
This is none of that. This is completely something sort of different. It doesn't play like a documentary. It doesn't speak down to you. It includes you in it. And it's really sort of just about the story of this dynamic of a movie that wouldn't die and didn't die and is now only getting stronger. And we have second generation fans, right? And we have second generation fans, and how many people saw this movie, The Monster Squad, for the first time by one of your parents?
Yes.
Right? That's an amazing dynamic that someone saw it and then passed it down. So we try to capture all of that. Look, we got a great New York crowd. We're at the fucking Nighthawk. I mean, this is amazing, right? This is so rad. I actually feel super cool right now that I'm at the Nighthawk. And I know Henry has something to do, but none of this would have been able to happen without this guy right here. Many of you, how many people in this theater are in this documentary or were at something that we shot at? I know Staten Island, we get it. We know, right? There's some was that you'll see it. It's amazing to be a part of this whole thing with you, and it wouldn't have happened without the vision and the passion, the creativity. This guy, Henry McComas, who was sort of the co-pilot and actually really steered the ship of this whole thing technically and creatively along with me. And I will finally pipe down and pass the mic to my man Henry and say hello to Brooklyn.
What up, Brooklyn? Not people that haven't seen The Monster Squad, do not be intimidated. You're gonna enjoy this movie. If we did our jobs right, and hopefully we did, as long as you've fallen in love with the movie before, you'll be able to resonate with this.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. We're here Monday night. It's Monday, right? We
Monday.
just came back.
I don't know what night. Yeah, it's Monday. It's Monday.
You guys worked today, and you took the time to get in your vehicles or get on the subway and come out here in a movie theater to share one singular experience. And this is something we need to hold on to, because 35 years from now, we might not have movie theaters. When we're talking about a movie that was made 31 years ago, we're talking about formats: 35 millimeter, bootleg VHS, Blu-ray, Laserdisc, digital, and streaming. But this is the reason why we make movies. So a bunch of strangers can get in a dark room together and have a really good time.
Whoa, wait a minute.
That's how I met my wife.
Thank you for having a good time.
Enjoy it. We'll come after Q&A right in a few minutes, and then we'll be outside and take photos. We got a separate brief, so don't fret. One thing I always like to say, no phones. There's some wooden stakes in the back. They will be thrown at you if you have your phone. Most people like to get up. They know when the movie's over and the credits are rolling and they go pee. Stick around, because the fun shit's during the credits. There's some really good stuff during the credits, so don't leave. It's only a couple minutes, and then we'll come Q&A. We'll promise we'll let you out so you can pee. You ready? You good?
Yeah.
You ready to go? You want to watch this?
Yeah!
So, obviously from me and Henry and all of the crew that worked on this, we certainly appreciate you coming to Awesome Things. Support Brooklyn Horror Film Festival, the sponsors that actually help these awesome events go on. It sounds corny, but either at them or tweet them or retweet them or support them in some way, shape, or form, even if it's just thank you, because we wouldn't have awesome events like this without sponsors and or awesome venues and people like Justin to put shit like this on, and we get to come and bask in the fun. So do that, enjoy this, and we'll hang out after, yeah? All right. Able to document most of that, because it really became an important through line through the entire documentary, right? And we found the right beats and the right spots, because it just became like a vehicle with the footage and the B-roll, and most of our great fan interviews were from that tour. Staten Island.
Yeah.
Who are here, right here? Hey, where's my Staten Island at? Eric, turn around, stand up, stand up. Say hi to everybody.
Staten Island!
How great is
Right.
that? Your son's in this movie.
That was my son.
So that tour became just really I don't want to say a bonus, but just like a thing that
A through line
that added on. It became a bonus up front that became a through line that we didn't know was going to be so important, because a lot of our on the street or fan on the street type of interviews came from being on that tour, including like Sean Decker, who was the kid who in Winchester, Virginia, came to that screening, which was our last stop, and told the story that a couple months before this movie opened in his local theater, he got diagnosed with HIV when he was like 13. And he got kicked out of school, and he had to, his family had to move and all that. That's an incredible story, right?
Yeah.
And he told me that story in line while we were after and signing, and I was like, what? And I said, would you, this is what's crazy about going to a tour like that, and you have to cherry pick some of these fans and these people. And I was like, would you be willing to tell that story? Because you just told that to me. I didn't know if it was like a private thing or whatever. And he was like, you want me to tell for your thing?
We were packing up gear. We almost
You were already, Henry, and then we're already done. And I was like, if you would want to, that would be amazing. And he was like, I would love to tell that story. And I was like, go right over there.
He goes, Henry, we got a really special story for you. And coming from Andre, that might mean that they've seen the movie before. So we grabbed the camera not knowing what to expect. And if you look at it, we kind of frame Sean and it's handheld, makes for a very intimate interview. And I'm thinking he's going to talk about the first time he saw the movie. And then when he hits us with this very personal story, you see a dip in the camera, because that's my heart dropping. I had no idea what to expect, and we just captured that all in real time.
So that tour became a very important.
And is that when it opened up to you to make it more about just the Monster Squad, to make it more about sort of why fans love horror? Like, that was the initial idea from the beginning, or?
That was the initial idea from the beginning. It's not, I didn't want to make a movie about making the Monster Squad. I didn't want to make it about the cast of the Monster Squad. Where are they now? Drunk in the valley. Or I certainly didn't want to make it a movie about me.
That's the sequel.
I didn't want to make it a movie about me.
Yeah.
And I tried to stay out of this movie as much as I could. And we had many conversations about that while we were cutting it. It was always about the fans. The only reason this documentary exists is because I wanted to tell that story of the people. I wanted to turn the focus and the celebration back on the people that had kept this movie alive for 30 years. They've been celebrating us for 30 years. It's time to turn it around on y'all, who are the reason why we're even talking about this movie so long later, right? So. And that's really the only people that make movies happen. It doesn't, people get disconnected from it. They don't really get it. And it's like, oh, it's a big box office thing. It was like, you know why? Because people bought a fucking ticket. And they went and they liked it. And maybe they bought a second ticket and they went and saw your movie a second time. And I don't think a lot of people keep sight of that. And I just have a very unique perspective on this movie with Monster Squad fans. That's the only perspective there is this movie didn't just disappear and die on the vine like it did in the box office because y'all kept it alive for so long. That's what we kind of wanted to capture and explain. And then it just went into a lot of different areas.
It was important that it wasn't fan servicing as well. Like, we approached this as I'm a fan of the movie, and I have been for a very long time. And what we kind of did is it's a romance story about a movie and its audience that was 31 years in the making, and sometimes they break up and then they find each other later on. And so it was important that I was a nerd walking down the high school halls and people being like, why do you love horror movies so much? Now we have something where we can say, this is why we love horror movies so much.
In the intro, you mentioned that Henry's a great example of somebody whose life was changed essentially by the Monster Squad. So for you, Henry, what does the film mean to you, and how did you guys get linked up to make it a reality?
Well, when in the documentary, when you see that it goes to HBO and VHS and then DVD and Blu-ray, I was in Alaska where the winters were extremely long and the days were very short and there wasn't much to do. So I was rummaging through my older brother's box of VHS tapes, and I didn't find the one I was looking for, not the dirty one. Instead, I found a VHS tape with a white blank label that said Monster Squad on it, and I put it in. And I was immediately transported to this world. And I started sharing it with my friends around the cul-de-sac, and every time we got the tape, we would take our turn drawing a monster onto that white label. So if you see the VHS tape in the doc, that was inspired by that. After that, I found a VHS camcorder that my parents had for their wedding day, and I started making little stop animation videos in the snow with action figures and movies with my friends. So a kid that found the Monster Squad and then found his friends off of it became a filmmaker who got to make a movie with the leader of the Monster Squad.
Yes.
You got any questions out here in the audience?
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, Well, I've seen the Monster Squad quite recently for the first time, thanks to my friend here, Katie Rose O'Sullivan.
Yes!
That's a good friend.
Yeah, she introduced it to me just like, gosh, probably a couple weeks ago, but I watched it like so with an adult critical eye, wondering about, gosh, well, there's the weird German guy, and he didn't come up in the documentary, but he was interesting to me, like as a refugee of the old Europe, which is where all these strange myths come from, and like how strange myths are transferred like over from Europe to America now. And now he was not only well, gosh, he had his, he had to reconcile with it again, just like you guys had in the movie. And I was wondering what you thought about that, because to me that was a very shocking part of the film, as an adult watching and seeing his arm come out with the numbers on his wrist, etc.
Yeah, the movie gets really real right then.
It does.
Right? It all of a sudden becomes not this kid's
Real.
adventure movie. Like, what's going on here? Like,
Yeah.
whoa, this just got deep.
Yeah.
But I think you brought up a very interesting point that not many people bring up. They bring up the deepness and obviously, the reference to concentration camp tattoo. But the mythology and the folklore of Europe and Eastern Europe of coming and stories and word of mouth things and oral traditions and even written literature, which is where all of these monsters come from.
Mm-hmm.
And so having that character sort of be almost maybe that, that tether to the history of it, but then also gets really real with some modernity to it or some recent history with it. Just completely, that's a very Shane Black thing to all of a sudden just take something and make it very real and very heavy. And a kid's funny, campy movie, right? But that's what makes Monster Squad different than, other, kids' adventure movies of the time that may have seemed a little more campy or a little more cartoonish.
Mm-hmm.
It gets very real, and not only these kids in peril, but this is the one character in the neighborhood who we're all afraid of because we think he's different and we think he's weird and he's scary because he's got a funny look and he doesn't speak, he speaks with a funny accent, but he ends up being, like Seth Green says, the most sympathetic character that ends up, he's like, I actually know what's going on and I believe you because I know bad shit happens in this world, and this is my role. I made it through that so I can help you with this. And he becomes part of the squad. And when you start thinking about that stuff, and you can get really heady with it, obviously, but it's there. And I think it's a very interesting, part of that story that Shane and Fred wrote. And Leonardo Cimino was, this amazing, classically trained actor that's been in a bazillion movies. He passed away, 10 years ago or so. And, go look at his body of work. He's just amazing. We have a lot of amazing actors in this movie. It's about a bunch of, goofy kids running around that no one believes that there's monsters after them. But there's some really great actors in this movie that they cast, and that's a testament to Fred, Shane, the producers, and the studio that was like, let's get some really good actors, and then we'll throw some kids in there.
It's what made Fred and Shane ahead of their time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To have subject matter like that and bring it in with some levity and some humor, it just really it just weaves into a much deeper story, and I think that's a fascinating aspect of the story of Monster Squad.
Any other questions in the movie?
Oh, this is Brooklyn. Come on.
There we go in the back.
Yes.
So Universal's was it the Dark Universe or whatnot? It failed.
Yeah.
It didn't take off. So
Yeah.
for all of us horror fans, is there a Monster Squad 2 treatment that was written?
Are you working on one?
Are you?
You have an outline for a Monster Squad.
Okay, so
You do.
let's go. We'll put them in the stack. Right. Good. So here's sort of a roundabout story that sums that up. They were.
Do that, but then I want to talk about his treatment.
That's totally no. We totally will. Do you have money? Was that out loud? Sorry.
Oh, that's great.
They were remaking this movie.
No.
So after how many people bought the 20th anniversary double DVD? How many people bought the Lionsgate Blu-ray after that one? How many people bought the weird Olive Films Blu-ray with some weird artwork on the front? Thank you, that's good. Where I look like Hillary Swank.
That's my favorite render.
That's not a bad thing. I love Hillary Swank. I just look like Hillary Swank.
It's doubly sexy.
Thank you. Doubly sexy. So after the success of that DVD, which we kind of touched on a little bit in this, Lionsgate sold a crap load of DVDs with no marketing. It was just fans. They talked about it and they sold it out. People waited in line at Walmart in Des Moines to get the 2 copies, snatched them up, gone. They went through 3 runs. They did the Blu-ray. After that success of that DVD release after 20 years, one of the actual original producers of this movie, who was young at the time, who is now a veteran, big-time Hollywood producer and director named Rob Cohen.
Boy Next Door.
And The Mummy with Brendan Fraser. It's Fraser, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's Fraser.
Sir.
Teamed up and said, hey, let's remake this shit. And he teamed up with the studio and did the rights. Does anybody know who was remaking The Monster Squad with Rob Cohen? Henry.
Michael Bay.
Oh, God.
The destroyer of dreams! So Rob Cohen teamed up with Michael Bay's company to remake The Monster Squad. And it was, they got a writing team and they wrote a script and it just like, they couldn't crack it and they couldn't figure it out. And then Universal announced their Dark Universe. And so the remake died. Yes! And everybody rejoiced. They put the torches and the pitchforks away and they rejoiced. And then the Dark Universe died and everybody was happy, so it was good. But what a lot of people don't realize about the Dark Universe is they started that whole thing the right way. Their first movie in the Dark Universe was Dracula Untold.
That was a great movie.
Yeah, it was a better movie, right? It was kind of on the indie tip and with unknown people and was kind of weird.
Was Dracula Judas in that?
Something like that.
Yeah, they should have made every
That was
Dark
back in the
Universe.
2000s.
Gotcha.
I always thought they should have made every Dark Universe movie like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? And it could have been a really cool take. But then, like, no one saw Dracula Untold or it didn't hit the numbers that a giant studio wants, and they're like, we better put Tom Cruise in The Mummy.
That sucked.
Nah.
I mean, look, I'm a Tom Cruise fan. I love Tom Cruise. He's great. The Mummy, like, they could have made a different movie. But no, that they both died at the same time, which also now brings up, you don't want to remake The Monster Squad. You want a sequel.
Yes.
Hello.
Which goes back.
Yeah,
It goes back to your treatment. Do you love it?
I think with a little consideration, a little work off of you guys, could really be
Did you put your heart into it?
absolutely.
Yeah, then it's probably good.
Then what I would suggest is, because we just heard about a bunch of remakes and sequels that just bombed off of other people's IPs, is you take that treatment that you love and you put your heart and soul into it and you change it to the Monster Pod, or you change some character names. And what you do is you create your own IP and you own those characters, and by any means necessary, you make your movie. And I can't wait to watch it.
Yes.
Now with that said, hire Andre Gower as Ron. I'll be Ron Hinscraw. Ooh, Ron Hinscraw. That's kind of a cool character.
Write that down.
I know I totally get where the sequel is, right? With that said, everybody always asks where, is there a sequel or whatever. The reboot died, or the remake died, the Dark Universe died, where's the sequel, blah, blah, blah. There's some great stories out there that you could probably do, right? And yours is probably one of them. There's probably a really cool one on someone's laptop, like yours. Or mine.
I'm uploading it right now.
I have acted out my story. That we all have that kind of like, well, where would that go? And I think that's what's really neat. And what's really cool about that is there could be more than one.
Can I be Horace?
Yeah. Speaking of, like, did anybody not know before? Oh, empty. Row 2, we're empty. Just leave it, sir. Just leave it cut off.
Cut him off.
Did anybody not know that Brent Chalem had passed away in 1997 before watching this documentary?
I already knew.
So this was all new. This was new to you, right? Interesting part of the story, right? Super sad, super tragic, but it was something that we were very aware of how we wanted to tell that story. I don't think you couldn't do this documentary and not tell that part of the story, because I think it's a very important part. And that's the character that everybody kind of resonates with. That's the character that's the best arc in the movie. He nerd justices up, in the vernacular of Joe Magno, who says that's just really the nerd justice. And he has one of the most cinematic shots in the movie, and that's the character that Henry loves, and we all love Horace. And it's just a real shame that we go to conventions and we go to places like Alamo Tours and Wizard World, and Brent Chalem can't be there because everybody would love to see him. And it's but I thought we did a pretty good job of explaining that story and explaining his people and explaining that to you who don't know.
Fortunately, we have to wrap up in here. But,
What?
But the guys will be out in the lobby.
We're sitting in.
Nice.
You're not shut
Yeah,
down.
we're gonna be outside.
Solidarity.
Any last?
Yeah. There's a party in the bar downstairs.
There's a party thing. We'll be out there. Ask your questions. We're not going anywhere. If you want to take some photos, or if we have anything. Did anybody bring anything to sign? By chance? I don't know. Anybody?
I wish.
You got that poster? We've already signed your shirt. I'm not signing your shirt again.
Guys, thank you so much for coming out. We'll be outside.
Yeah, we'll be outside. Thank you very much thank you for the night.
Tell the internet that you watched the movie. We're a small movie trying to make a big impression, and that means you got to help us out.
Yeah, this is another
Yes.
example where fans are going to make this happen, just like Monster Squad. So we'll see you out in the lobby. Yeah, hang out, come say hi, ask more questions. Thank you, Brooklyn Horror Film Festival and the Nighthawk. This is an awesome place. Thank you.